Tottenham's injury crisis has gone from bad to worse. More bad news for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, as it is now believed that Dominic Solanke has suffered a Grade 2 hamstring injury, keeping him out for the rest of the season. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another edition of Tottenham News, where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. So let's start with the bad news, and there is more bad news on the injury front for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The Daily Telegraph have just reported there are fears that Dominic Solanke's season is over after he picked up an injury at Molineux in our 1-0 win at Wolves on Saturday afternoon. It is believed that he has suffered a Grade 2 hamstring injury. He will now miss the rest of the 25-26 campaign, where of course Spurs have 4 Premier League games left: away at Aston Villa, home against Leeds, away at Chelsea, and then of course on the final day of the season at home against Everton. Now the relegation run in, 4 games to go. Leeds United have 40 points. Nottingham Forest have 39 points, West Ham United have 36 points, and Spurs, sitting in the bottom 3, have 34 points. Now, the remaining games for Leeds United: Burnley at home, Spurs away, Brighton at home, West Ham away. Forest, their 4 games are Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, Manchester United away, and Bournemouth at home. West Ham have Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, and Leeds United at home. And I will repeat the Tottenham Hotspur ones: Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away, and Everton at home. Now, on Tuesday, it was confirmed by Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and the Premier League that Tottenham's trip to Stamford Bridge in match week 37 of the Premier League has now been moved following Chelsea's progress to the FA Cup final. We will now travel to SW6 on Tuesday, the 19th of May, with an 8:15pm kickoff. The match will be televised live on Sky Sports. Chelsea beat Leeds United 1-0 in Sunday's FA Cup semi-final and will now face Manchester City in the final back at Wembley on Saturday, the 16th of May. So, of course, the FA Cup final will take place 3 days before Spurs visit Stamford Bridge. And also on Tuesday, the Spurs under-18s were in action at Hotspur Way, losing 2-1 at home against West Ham United. The Spurs under-21s will play Chelsea in the quarter-finals of the Premier League 2 playoffs. The game will take place at Kings Meadow on Friday, the 1st of May, with a kick-off time 7pm. And Mikey Moore has just been shortlisted for the PFA Scotland Men's Young Player of the Year award. The 18-year-old has been in impressive form for Lone Club Rangers this term, having shone in our academy setup in recent years. He is currently on 6 goals in 43 appearances in all competitions for the Scottish Premiership title chasing side. Premier League legend Alan Shearer on who will stay up, Spurs or West Ham. He said, "I think West Ham might stay up. I still think, Tottenham had a couple of injuries as well, didn't they? Solanke went off injured at Wolves, and Javi Simmons also went off injured." Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode, and I know this is a short one, and apologies that I have not been doing a lot of these episodes recently. I tell you what, I'm completely drained. I really, really am. I've been doing the live podcasts after the games, but these episodes I've kept to a minimum, and fair play to Craig and fair play to Lee. They have been keeping you updated in these last few weeks. So big apologies, but I tell you what, I'm absolutely drained of it. This injury crisis that we have, the position we are in the league table at the moment, it is really, really getting me down as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. It is deeply frustrating. Spurs sit in the position where we are with 4 games to go. It is deeply upsetting to see this club in such a state. And of course, we were lacking creativity in that Wolves game when we had Dominic Solanke and Xavi Simons on the pitch. And we have lacked creativity for most of the season, if I'm completely honest, in that final third. Every single player needs to step up. Every single player needs to do a lot more. But I tell you what, if there was anyone who was going to create a goal in the final 4 Premier League games, it was going to be Xavi Simons, because I thought he was excellent against Brighton, of course, assisting for Pedro Porro, and then the goal that he scored in front of the South Stand, incredible finish. And when you look at the other teams around us, the likes of West Ham, they've got Jared Bowen. They've got a number of good attacking players that can assist and can score. When you look at a team like Nottingham Forest, at the moment, Morgan Gibbs-White, one of the best players and one of the most informed players in the Premier League right now. Do Spurs have a player like this that can deliver? I tell you what, now that Xavi Simons is out, now the fact that Dominic Solanke is going to be out, we are relying now on a 20-year-old. We're relying on a 21-year-old in terms of Bergvall and Tell. And that's not just my guess. That is what we heard from Roberto De Zerbi after the win at Wolves. And I do take a lot of positives from the Wolves win, although it wasn't the greatest of performances. We got the job done. It keeps us alive. It keeps us up with West Ham. We're 2 points away. But when you look at the 4 remaining games, they are going to be very, very tough. I read out the fixtures for Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and also West Ham. And, there's not an easy game in the Premier League. But when you look at the form that these teams are in, when you look at how many points that they've picked up in the calendar year of 2026, how many wins, etc., West Ham are in fine form at the moment. And that was a big win for them at the London Stadium. I think we were out of the bottom 3 for about 4 or 5 minutes. So that was very, very short-lived. But the fact that we've now got Xavi Simons out, the fact that we've now got Dominic Solanke out, we're going to need to rely on the likes of Bergvall and Tell, and we're also going to need to rely on the likes of Cowlin and Richarlison. And in my opinion, neither of those two have been good enough this season. Cowlin, wow. I don't really know what to say about Cowlin. I need to see a lot more. I tell you what, I don't think I've seen any impressive signs from him this season. Champions League, I thought he'd done okay, but the Premier League, I think it's 1 goal in the Premier League from Cowlin this season, and I think he's been an absolute disaster in the final third, if I'm completely honest. And even on Saturday, Wolves gifted him a chance, and he shot wide. No Premier League player from that distance should be shooting wide. This is stuff that you get taught when you're a kid. Always keep the ball on target. These are professional footballers. This is their job. I just think such poor finishing, and I am really, really worried about the creativity or lack of it, especially in the final third. These games are going to be very, very tough. I don't know how to predict it. I don't know how to predict the other results as well. At this stage of the season, it's going to come down to, who is more hungry to get out of this trouble. And, passion, desire, all of those things, grit, determination. What I really like about Roberto De Zerbi, he is such a positive guy, and he is trying to, instill, positivity throughout the whole of the camp. And, he's been here a couple of weeks, and, what a welcome to Tottenham. I tell you what, we're cursed. We must be cursed, honestly. I just cannot believe it. Can we have a normal day? Can we have a normal week? Can we just have normality at the football club just for a short time, at least? We're hearing about injuries. There is just crisis this season. Can this season get any worse? I suppose it can. We can be relegated. That is the only thing left, because I think that we have just been stripped of the whole squad. The amount of injuries that we have had. Of course, we had a lot of injuries last season under Ange Postecoglou, which, he got the blame from a lot of people. He got the blame. And now people are starting to blame the pitch at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, although some of these injuries have been away from home. But, a lot of people are now looking at the retractable pitch that we have at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But honestly, we just need a little bit of luck, and we just don't seem to be getting any luck, any rub of the green at the moment. And key players are being out. Yes, we could go back to the January transfer window. Johan Langer said to us all that, we didn't do very much in the January transfer window because the players that were out injured, they thought that they would be coming back. Interestingly, and I didn't read this comment out today, and I think it's been covered on the channel by Craig and Lee in the last couple of days, that Jamie Carragher turned around and said that, if Spurs want a chance of staying up, then Spurs might need to use James Maddison in some of these games. Roberto De Zerbi in the last couple of games has actually had Maddison on the bench, more for support, more for the positivity aspect. I've never seen or heard of this before ever. Certainly not in the Premier League before, particularly at Spurs either. That a player is never going to feature from the sub bench, but he is there for the vibes. But Roberto De Zerbi likes positive people, and he wants James Maddison in the dressing room. Of course, he travelled to Wolves, and the game before that, at home to Brighton, he was shouting from the sub bench and giving encouragement to his teammates, etc. But Carragher turned around and said that he might just need to make cameo appearances for Tottenham, even if it's in like the last 15, 20 minutes of games, to give us some creativity. Because, let's be honest, where is the creativity coming from? Some of these players, I've been saying it all season, they need to step up, they need to deliver more, they need to do more in matches, and we haven't seen it. But I have been encouraged by the two performances of late against Brighton and against Wolves. I know a lot of people will be shouting, saying, that was a terrible performance against Wolves. I get it to a certain extent, but if we play like we did against Wolves away at Aston Villa, then it is not going to go well. So we need to up our game. But the most important thing on Saturday was the result. Sometimes you just need to grind a result out, and that was a very, very important win. And you could tell what it meant to some of these players, and you could tell what it meant to Roberto De Zerbi. So we've picked up 4 points in the last two games, but it has to continue. There's absolutely no question or doubt. It has to continue game by game. These 4 games, we have to get something from every single game to give us any chance of survival and being a Premier League team next season. At the moment, Opta are stating that Spurs are favourites to go down. West Ham 40%, Spurs 60%. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that whatsoever. And this is what's getting me down. And that's why I feel the way I do about this football club right now, because, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Spurs should never, ever be in this position. The club's owners and the board should have seen this coming months and months and months ago. Certainly whilst Thomas Frank was still our manager, we should have seen this coming a long, long time ago. And in that January transfer window, I don't think there's any excuses. Spurs should have strengthened in that January transfer window, in my opinion. We've been here before with the amount of injuries, and we are here again. And I just can't believe it. Honestly, it's just an absolute mess that we are in right now. But we just have to hope and pray at the moment that we are going to pick up points in the remaining 4 games. And at the moment, the way I feel is that we need a miracle. Miracles do happen. Remember, yesterday it was the anniversary of Spurs winning the FA Cup for the first time in 1901. That was Tottenham's first ever miracle in our history in 1901. As a non-league side, we won the FA Cup. I tell you what, I'm hoping for a miracle in 2026 that Spurs get out of this mess. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you listen to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.